Unknown to them, the water Mrs. Ade sprinkles every morning is from the mortuary. Mrs. Ade was a struggling young lady who owned a foodstuff shop in the market. Her husband was currently jobless, so they depended on her shop for survival. But the painful aspect was that she would go to the shop every day and sell nothing. Meanwhile, others were selling. This continued for months until she was tired. She kept praying and believing, yet nothing changed. She got tired and decided to seek solution elsewhere. And immediately she did. She found answers and things changed for good. Mrs. Ade's shop became the biggest shop in the market. You could say her shop was the biggest of all. She sold rice, beans, all the food you could think of, but no one noticed something fishy about her. Every morning when she comes to the market, she would sprinkle water, at least that was what they thought it was, in front of her shop and start making some incantations that only she understands. She acts very nicely to people, so no one could think she had any bad intention. Every day when she comes to the market, she would choose one of her neighbors and say, "Please help me change this money." Then in the evening, she would measure some cups of rice and say to anybody she pleases and say, "Manage this with the children." And the person would kneel and thank her. But what they didn't understand was why she never had change, despite how big her shop was. Some people felt she would go bankrupt because of how she gives people foodstuffs. Her neighbors were fond of complaining of money disappearance every evening. If Henry isn't complaining, Tayo will. If Tayo doesn't, Agnes will. But what they didn't know was that anytime you change money for Mrs. Ade, immediately you put that her money where you kept other money you sold things. Everything inside there disappears and appears in her purse. So in order for people not to notice, she only asks for change from one particular person once a week. And if she gives you foodstuffs, immediately you eat it with your children. All your fortune will go to her gradually till you are left with nothing. Blessing was also a neighbor of hers who encountered something as such. There came a new girl named Edidiong. She was a God-fearing girl. She just rented a shop in the market besides Mrs. Ade. Her spirit resented Mrs. Ade, although she didn't know why. She heard severally of how people complained of their money missing at the end of the day, and she couldn't understand what could be the cause of that. She prayed to God to reveal to her. One day, Sam, one of the neighbors, refused to change money for Mrs. Ade, saying he didn't have the change. The next morning, his shop was burnt down. Nobody traced it to Mrs. Ade except Edidiong, because she remembered Mrs. Ade saying, "I will deal with you," in a dialect that nobody understood except her. But since she didn't have any proof, she kept quiet. Her shop was always filled with customers from morning till evening. Sometimes she would insult her customers, yet they would be the ones to apologize to her. Her neighbors barely sold anything since she had dealt with all of them. She added all what they were selling to hers, and they just sat there watching her all day do the selling. Edidiong was curious. How can only one person be selling in the market every day from morning till night? Was that a normal thing? Some people came with their own waterproofs because most times she would say she doesn't have waterproof to use in selling. So in order for her to sell to you, you'd have to come with your waterproof from the house so she would use in selling for you. Meanwhile, unknown to them, she had bought all her customers' heads spiritually that they could not buy anywhere else except her shop. Her husband was like a salesboy to her, since he was under a spell, and she was in charge and had the final say. The only price she had to pay was to remain childless for the rest of her life, but she didn't mind as long as she had all the money and fame. So one day, she asked Edidiong for the first time to change money for her. Edidiong did, and discovered in the evening that that particular money disappeared. And since she didn't sell anything the whole of that day, that was the only money in her safe, only for her to discover that the money was gone. She began to suspect the woman. The next day, someone complained of money disappearance, and she jokingly asked, "Did you change money for Mrs. Ade?" And the lady said yes. She kept quiet. She started monitoring the woman and discovered that anyone she changes money ends up complaining of money disappearance. She prayed for God to help her reveal this woman. Unknown to them, the water Mrs. Ade sprinkles every morning is from the mortuary. It is the water washed from dead people's body. She was instructed to always sprinkle it in front of her shop to attract customers, and that once a person buys from her, the person will keep coming back. So one day, Edidiong was told in her sleep that whenever Mrs. Ade changes money with her, she should use a black thread to tie the money and it won't disappear. And the next day, she should use that same money to buy from Mrs. Ade and everything will backfire. So she got the same gallon Mrs. Ade uses to sprinkle that mortuary water in front of the shop. She got that same gallon and put in a clean water. And immediately Mrs. Ade dropped the gallon in front of her shop to open the shop, Edidiong switched it and dropped hers and carried Mrs. Ade's own. So that day, after Mrs. Ade sprinkled the water in front of her shop, she discovered that not a single customer branched, and she was wondering why and thought what could happen that no single customer came to my shop. Little did she know that Edidiong had exchanged the water she dropped with a different one. So when Edidiong came to buy from her, she didn't think Edidiong would be that reasonable to use the money she gave to her to buy from her again. So she collected the money from Edidiong. And the instruction given to her was that she should never collect the money she exchanged with someone. If not, she will run mad. So immediately she collected the money, she ran mad, shouting and confessing and begging everyone for forgiveness. After some days, she died. The market went back to normal and people started selling again, and money never disappeared again.